You have $10,000 in your savings account. You worked hard for it. You didn't splurge. You didn't make excuses. And right now, without knowing it, you are losing over $140,000. Not because someone stole it, not because of a bad decision. Because of a good one you've been quietly congratulating yourself for every single week. By the time you finish reading this, the way you see the word safe will have changed permanently. Not safe as in reckless, safe as in responsible, cautious, disciplined, the financial behavior you've always been told to aim for. That version of safe has a price tag, and nobody mails you the invoice. Every Sunday morning, Daniel opens his banking app. He is 30. He earns $65,000 a year. He rents a clean apartment in a mid-sized city, drives a used Civic he paid off 2 years ago, and carries zero credit card debt. By every visible standard, by every standard the culture gave him, Daniel is doing it right. He grew up watching his parents fight about bills. Not loudly, quietly. The kind of fighting that happens in short sentences at the kitchen table, where nobody raises their voice because the kids are in the next room and both parents already know there is no good answer. The memory is specific: a Tuesday in October, the smell of reheated dinner, his father's hand flat on the table. Daniel was 11. He decided then, without words, that he would never feel that panic. That was the deepest financial goal he would carry into adulthood. Not wealth, not luxury, just the permanent absence of that kitchen table feeling. So he did everything right. He read the articles. He found a high-yield savings account offering 4.5% AP, genuinely good research, better than most people bother with. He automated his deposits. He resisted the weekend impulses, the new phone, the treat-yourself logic that erodes most people's accounts slowly and invisibly. Every Sunday morning, he opens the app, sees the number, $10,247, and feels a quiet satisfaction settle over him, like the first sip of coffee. The number is small, and he knows it, but it grew. It is growing. That counts for something. This ritual is about to be permanently altered. Here is what makes Daniel's story hit differently than most. He is not naive. He is not financially reckless. He didn't make the obvious mistake. He made the informed, researched, responsible choice. That is what makes what happened next so disorienting. The conversation that cracked everything open. It happened on a Tuesday, ordinary break-room conversation, the kind that evaporates by noon. Daniel's coworker Jamie mentioned, almost without looking up from her lunch, that she wasn't really worried about retirement anymore. Daniel heard it the way you hear something that doesn't quite fit, a note slightly off-key. Jamie was 30, same salary, same company, same starting point, as far as he knew. Why not? He asked. Jamie pulled up her phone, opened an app Daniel didn't recognize. Vanguard tilted the screen toward him. $94,000. Daniel looked at the number for a long moment. How is that possible? I moved $10,000 out of savings into an index fund 6 years ago, Jamie said. Never touched it. Added $200 a month after that. 6 years. Daniel had been saving for 6 years too. His balance was $10,800, almost exactly what he started with plus interest. He said the only thing that made sense. How is that possible? Jamie smiled. Do you want the real answer or the comfortable one? The real answer began with a rule Jamie learned from a book she read at 23. A rule so simple Daniel was briefly angry that nobody had taught it to him in school. The rule of 72. Divide 72 by your annual return. The answer is how many years it takes your money to double. Daniel's savings account, 4.5% AP. 72, 4.5 equals 16 years to double. The S&P 500 index fund, historical average of roughly 10% per year across any rolling 30-year period. 72 divided 10 equals 7.2 years to double. Daniel listened to this like someone receiving a diagnosis they'd been avoiding. The math wasn't hard, it was obvious once stated, and it had been sitting there operating silently in the background for 6 years. Then came the numbers. $10,000 in a savings account at 4.5% for 30 years, $37,000. $10,000 in an S&P 500 index fund at 10% for 30 years, $174,000. Same starting amount, same 30 years, a gap of $137,000. Not 10% larger, not 20% larger, 4.7 times larger. Daniel stared at that. He hadn't done anything wrong. He'd done exactly what he thought was responsible. He had simply been playing a different game than he thought, one where the rules were never posted on the wall. That is when Jamie introduced the concept that would quietly rewrite the way Daniel thought about every financial decision he would make for the rest of his life. Opportunity cost, the price of the path not taken. Most people understand opportunity cost abstractly. Choosing one thing means not choosing another. What most people never do is apply it to their own savings account, in their own specific numbers, in their own actual life. Jamie did it concretely. Every year Daniel keeps $10,000 in that savings account. Instead of an index fund, he does T-Gain Safety. He pays approximately $550 to $700 in invisible lost growth. No bill arrives, no alert, no notification. The loss is silent, frictionless, and undetectable, which is exactly why it persists. Over 30 years, that silent tax compounds into $137,000 in unrealized wealth. There is no neutral financial decision. Keeping money in a savings account is not the absence of a choice. It is a choice, one that costs $137,000 over a lifetime. And the only reason most people never see the invoice is that the system is designed to show it to them, especially not the bank. Daniel felt something shift. Not panic, not shame. Something sharper and cleaner, the specific anger of someone who has just discovered an information gap. Nobody taught him this. Not school, not his parents. They were fighting about bills, not optimizing compound interest. Not his bank, which had a strong institutional interest in him, continuing to feel virtuous about the number sitting in his account. The system wasn't designed to show him this math. He went home and ran the real calculation. He was 30. He had $10,000. If he had started at 25 just 5 years earlier and put that same $10,000 in an index fund, he would already have $16,105 today without adding a single dollar. Those 5 years at the front end of the compounding curve are the most valuable years of all. Losing the first 5 years at 10% doesn't cost you 50% of your lifetime returns. Because of how compounding accelerates, it costs you closer to 40% of what your money would have eventually become. He could go back to 25. Nobody could give him those years back. He sat with that for a minute, let it land. Then he asked himself the only question that mattered now: is 35-year-old Daniel going to look back at tonight the same way I am looking back at 25? Daniel opened his laptop. He went to Investor, a free government tool. No account, no sign-up, no sales pitch. He ran 3 scenarios side by side. He typed in the numbers carefully, like someone who wanted to be sure. Scenario 1, $10,000 in a savings account at 4.5% for 30 years. Result, $37,000. Scenario 2, $10,000 in an S&P 500 index fund at 10% for 30 years. Result, $174,000. He already knew these. He stared at them for a moment anyway. Then he added a third line. Scenario 3, $10,000 in an index fund at 10% for 30 years plus $300 per month. Result, $677,000. He read that number 3 times, $677,000. From a $10,000 starting point and $300 a month, less than the cost of a car payment for many people over 30 years. He sat back in his chair. And here is where the story turns. Not into panic, not into shame, not into the sickening spiral of "I've wasted so much time," into something much quieter and more useful: clarity. Daniel looked at his savings account on his phone. The number hadn't changed. $10,247, same as it had been this morning. But the number's meaning had changed completely. It was not a trophy, it had never been a trophy. It was a launch pad, and it had been sitting on the runway with the engines off. He wasn't behind. That is the part nobody tells you until you see the math yourself. 30 years old with $10,000 is not a consolation prize. It is a powerful starting position. The tragedy, the real tragedy, would be spending another year sitting on the runway, waiting for the right time while the compounding clock ran. The greatest financial risk is not losing money. It is not knowing that SAFE has a price tag. The greatest financial risk is not losing money. It is not knowing that SAFE has a price tag. That phrase, Daniel realized, was the one he would have needed at 25. He could give it to his 25-year-old self, but he could act on it tonight. He didn't overhaul his life. He made 3 decisions in one evening, and not one of them required a sacrifice. He opened a Roth IRA, a retirement account where your money grows entirely tax-free, and transferred $7,500, the 2026 annual maximum contribution. He kept his remaining $2,747 plus a few hundred he moved over in his high-yield savings account, finally understanding what that account was actually for. A true emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Money that should be liquid and stable and safe, because that is the job of emergency savings, not to build wealth, to absorb shocks. Then he set up a $300 per month automatic transfer to his index fund. He didn't feel it, his lifestyle didn't change. The number just started moving in a direction that meant something. 3 decisions, 1 afternoon. The Sunday morning ritual was still intact. Except now, when Daniel opens his phone on Sunday mornings, same apartment, same coffee, same kitchen table, that is nothing like the one from his childhood. He opens 2 apps. The first is his savings account, which grows slowly and steadily and does exactly what it was always meant to do. The second is Vanguard, which grows in a way the first never could. The satisfaction when he looks at the second number is different from what he used to feel. It is not the quiet, static comfort of a number that hasn't moved. It is something with momentum, something aimed at a direction. He is not measuring his financial health by the balance in a single account anymore. He is measuring it by trajectory, not where the number is, but where it is going in 10, 20, 30 years. That distinction between balance and trajectory is the reframe that changes everything. Somewhere right now, someone is looking at $10,247 in a savings account. They worked hard for it. They didn't splurge. They didn't make excuses. They found a good high-yield account, and they felt, this morning, a quiet and reasonable pride. That pride is not wrong. The discipline that built that number is real, and it matters. What is missing is the second half of the picture, the half that shows what that number could become and what it costs to leave it exactly where it is. The calculator is free. It is at Investor. It takes 4 minutes. Put in your number, select your rate, run both scenarios, savings account and index fund, and let the math speak for itself. Then make whatever decision you make as a fully informed person. Because here is the only thing that has ever been true about this. The $10,000 is still there. It always was. The only thing that changed is that you now know what it is capable of and what it costs to leave it where it is. Time is the one asset you cannot buy back. More investing knowledge dropping soon. Don't miss the next one.